Jake.
Old man went to the Carlton game, Carlton GWS, last week.
Yeah.
I couldn't go, I was busy.
Lucky.
And he went with a mate of mine and they were sitting there and there's this Carlton supporter sitting a row behind him. Half through the first quarter, we were about 16 points down. And he's going, we've got this mob. I can feel it, guys, like audibly saying it to everyone in their bay, like, we've got this mob on the ropes. I've seen this before happen in footy. Gold Coast GWS finished the quarter by kicking 4 goals in 5 minutes. The bloke gets up and goes, I'm too stressed. I can't take this, and leaves and never came back. Welcome, Magoo's viewers, members of the Magoo's community. We're here for our Round 21 show, Ben, and joining us on the show this week to weigh in with all the big footy news from the week is Shura Taft. Shura, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, gents. Lovely to be here.
Certainly be a familiar face to not only football fans, but members of the entertainment community out there. So you are a very well-known Hawthorn fan. You're also running the as the MC of all their match day communications.
They can't keep me away, basically.
Just right
It's
in
been
there.
a relationship. This is no word of a lie. This has been a relationship since, apart from the fact that I barracked for them as a kid, but there's been an association with them since 1998 when I did work experience at the club. I'll tell you a great story about that later.
It's 20 years.
There you go. Yeah.
It's incredible.
20 years inside the 4 walls.
Well done.
Tell
We
you
can
some
just do a Hawthorn
Yeah.
show if you want. I reckon we
Did
can
you ever
do a
happen
job.
to run into Jack Fitzpatrick at all? Because he's a big friend of the show.
Big
Jack.
Jack.
Jack was on. Jack was in that chair.
I've met
our
Jack
first
back
ever
when he
guest.
was Melbourne days. Okay. Back when he was a no one, then he came to Hawthorn and we made him someone.
Well, we like to
Just
think
shine
that
a
we
spotlight
made
on his
him.
personality. It was just very good call.
Well, he's doing a podcast too, so
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
actually effectively a competition, so you shouldn't be talking about
Yes.
too much.
comments. Well,
Yeah, but he was on here before that, so we like to use it as the stepping stone.
Gotcha.
Was
Yeah,
us.
no,
So,
nice.
we encouraged it.
so we will get into some footy chat as we usually like to do
Yeah.
here, Ben, and we will tap into the great man's knowledge of what's going on. And we'd be remiss to not start with the Andrew Gaff incident.
You wanna
What
go
happened?
I'm not sure.
I must have
haven't
missed
heard.
this. Was
Yeah,
it something
you
happened with
wanna
Andrew
know
Gaff?
what-
So I
Brownlow
will
medal
run
or
you
something?
through. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, I'm sure, if Ben didn't know what had happened. This is sort of the dynamic we run out of frustration for some and out of pure ignorance for others.
Yeah.
It's so Andrew Gaff of the Eagles, for those who may not know, thumped young Brayshaw from Freo, of course, which resulted in a broken jaw and misplaced teeth and all the rest of it. And then the witch hunt began, and he copped 8 weeks at the tribunal. Police charges were mooted and all sorts of remarkable sort of things. So I guess it has been the talking point for the last 72 hours, and I'm sure that by the time we make this podcast public, that'll probably have been done to death, I'm sure. But
We did speak pre-show that we weren't going to bring up Gaff for that reason, but
Did we?
we've already brought him up straight away. No, we didn't actually.
Must have missed that meeting. But I guess it's sort of, boys, I mean, I will open the floor to you guys. I mean, is it the worst thing that we've seen? Like, modern history we're talking, what comes to mind that has been worse?
Everyone's already spoken about it, but Barry Hall definitely comes to mind for most.
Yeah,
Is that recent enough? Or
yeah,
no?
but I mean, Gaff got more than Hall. I know Hall was under a different system with...
Yeah, I don't know. We'll give it to Shura because I don't know.
My opinion is this, and I'll keep it short. Barry Halls was known as a thug. He did a thug act. He got what he deserved, probably less than he deserved, really. Andrew Gaff, good record, good guy. However, you cannot look away from the facts. I believe he was trying to hit him in the chest. That's a fact. However, if you break someone's jaw and you misplace their teeth or displace their teeth, whatever it is, you've struck with enough force that is unacceptable in the game of footy. It shouldn't just be accepted that he tried, like regardless of what your intention was, he didn't try and break this guy's jaw, but he did. It's thuggish. Happens anywhere else, it's assault. These are arguments everyone's made. 8 weeks is fair. You lose the Brownlow. You can't play in the grand final. Let's all move on. I think that's where it stands. The whole police stuff, yeah. I mean, that's not going to happen. But you do want. I'm raising a son at the moment, and I want him to play sport. And I'm going to fight a hard battle with my wife if that's the sort of stuff they're going to see on TV is happening. You know, she comes from a basketball background. She's going to push him that way. Although that being said, 2 weeks ago,
not a great
I
point.
think about it. We've seen.
Thon Maker's a big fan
Thon
of the show,
Maker,
actually.
flying kings. But yeah, I just think
Come on.
I just think it probably is the worst thing because even Jeremy Cameron, you can mount an argument. It's in play.
Yeah.
There's nothing in play about this.
Yeah, we've spoken on the show before actually about how the NBA use basketball fouls and non-basketball fouls. So that would be deemed a non-football foul. Not near the contest wasn't in it at all.
It's just that, and you know what? It's opened the discussion to unnecessary roughness or whatever is going on in the game right now. It is a bit of a bad look, let's be honest. And I agree. Like, I don't mind niggle, but there's to a point now in the AFL spectrum, which is that the blokes are going at each other for after they miss goals and all sorts of stuff. It's just unnecessary. It just looks bad. I just don't know.
I think that there's so much has sort of come off this, like, all different arguments, and they range from does it mean Gaff does or doesn't stay in West Coast, and then but it also ranges right through to back to our old mate, the red card rule. And I know we had the chat after the Jeremy Cameron thing, and I was staunch the other way of saying no, red cards are not the way to go, whatever. But I think I'm sort of coming around to it. If it's done properly now, and if I think that the main thing is, and it'll be tough to work, but if you take it out of the controlling on-field umpire, I think that's where you'll get the overzealous umpire running in on grand final day and red carding someone in the second quarter for a tiny indiscretion.
Yeah.
But if you can, so if this happens, the umpire doesn't see it's off the ball, but then it gets replayed up in the score review. Well, the score review guy's probably not the best player to do it, but someone like that can then watch it and then get in the earpiece and say, look, you've got to get over to Andrew Gaff and send him off because he's just smashed Brayshaw in the face. I think that the red card, and as much as it's a turnaround from what I said 5 or 6 weeks ago when I said that it's just unfathomable, I think
it'd be hard to get right. It will be hard. It's such a grey area. I mean, they get 50 metre penalties wrong all the time. So
yeah, I just think that there's so much more scope for it now in the game because especially I think the argument is that when you put someone out for the game, you're at a disadvantage. And I know that this happens once every blue moon almost in a sense, but I don't know. I mean, we play obviously local footy with red cards, and they're dangerous because local footy umpires are just they're just looking to send people off. And
They're great. They're fantastic. Come and umpire today.
Yeah, I'm with.
Please don't watch if you umpire in the Northern Football League. But and blokes in local leagues get their cards marked before anyone. I just hate to see, someone who might have a bad record at the tribunal. Let's say Jordan Lewis, for instance. Have an umpire always watching him to send him off at any given time. That's where I don't.
As bad as Jordan is, like he hasn't done anything to this scope.
Oh no!
So I think they're isolated incidents and they'll be taken on merit. And I read an article by Matty James, who was a former umpire, saying you're right. Controlling umpires, there's so much going on already in the game, as if you can focus on whether this guy needs sending off or not. So yeah, you have to be outside of that. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I don't know if it'll work, but I agree with you. I think it's right. Like if you're a man down, you've been disadvantaged. Why do they get to run around with an extra guy?
Especially for the non-footballing foul. As you
well,
put it
something
earlier.
like Gaff, then it'd be more plausible because it wasn't football. I thought that was the second worst incident that happened on the weekend. Now, as a Hawthorn man, you can probably back this up. Aaron Francis's bump on Jaeger O'Meara.
Disgusting.
Absolutely.
Should have got 10
awful.
weeks for that.
Awful. No, but seriously, how come he got a $2,000 fine? He didn't no head contact.
Yeah, I know. The reverse angle got him. He wouldn't have got off, I reckon, if not for the reverse angle. It looked a lot worse.
For starters, why would you use the reverse angle? And they used the only 4 photos just to show.
I think old Jager, lucky. You know what? You know what's funny about all this is it is so determined by who you hit and how they react. You hit a guy with a glass jaw, he's out. You hit a guy who's as hard as a bull's head. He's going to stay on the field, and for whatever reason, Jager was fine. If Jager was knocked out, Francis has gone for 2, 3.
Yeah, that's true.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So you pick the blokes that you're going to hit. Remember Ty Vickery on Dean Cox?
Yeah, that was big.
Dean Cox went down like I thought that was it was a bad hit, but he went down like no one's business. Just got him flush in the perfect position.
But then, it's just a remarkable system, isn't it? Where the penalty is so heavily weighted on how the victim, outcome. How that outcome,
which
plays out.
I
It's
sort
just
of agree that it should be, but then sometimes I think that, as you said, you might actually. What about the people who have had concussion in the past? They're more likely to get concussion again.
I was shocked, I have to say. When I first saw the incident, I was like, we'll have a bloody mouth from that. I genuinely thought he'd have a fat lip, that's it. It didn't look like that would break the jaw.
Yeah.
Imagine the force he must have put through that.
He does wind up. He does wind up.
He did wind up, yeah.
It's not a short arm jab, is it? It comes from back.
And but like even the reports are saying maybe 3 or 4 dead teeth he's got now. So like that's a real smack
for a young man.
He was not lucky, but he had his top mouth guard in. Which imagine if he didn't have that. I mean, it could have been as double as So
brings me back to when Dustin Fletcher lost his teeth in a contest. Don't know if you guys remember that one.
I remember Buddy losing his teeth and a couple of blokes found him in
Yeah, I
the
remember
forward
bouncing
pocket.
out. Yeah,
Got the forensics team on the ground.
Yeah, well, he always took his bloody mouth guard out.
Yeah, that's silly.
So I saw Mark Brayshaw, father of Andrew. I'd like to read what he said today in an interview. I think he was on SEM Breakfast. We hope Andrew Gaff can get through it. There has been nowhere to hide. I hope he can move forward quickly. My third son Hamish is going to put the two of them together quickly. I hope they can shake hands and move on. None of us have any interest whatsoever in anything other than what happened tonight. It is a rotten bit of luck, and personally, I'm absolutely convinced he meant to give him a good whack in the chest. Once we established his jaw wasn't too bad, our interest swung to the broader issue, which was the reaction in Perth and the Gaff family, and Andrew in particular. If I could shake his hand, a double handshake, and wish him well, and hope he can find his feet and move on. I think that's and maybe it took this sort of turn too early, but I think that that character assassination, as it's been sort of, dramatised, if you will, but I just think that, when we saw Gaff get off the plane and even, walking in the tribunal, he looked like a man that was just absolutely broken. And I think that, I don't think we see that. And I mean, again, this is a one out of the box, but even in the criminal system, I don't think we see people who accused, whatever. I don't think we see them acting like, or just portraying how broken he was.
Can I say, I think we haven't seen yet this impact of keyboard warriors and the wider social media, and I guess how far media goes now in a generation. It's coming through now. And I say that because having spoken to people like Pat Cash in an interview, Dean Jones, these guys, I said, what do you reckon would have been what would have happened around your era if this was what it was like? And they were like, we wouldn't have left our houses. Because the scrutiny wasn't there. You could go to a nightclub, people could see you do something, but that's about it. Now it's like every Tom, Dick and Harry has a phone, has a camera, has a recording device, and also has an opinion that they can put out there and be retweeted 10,000 times saying you're a dickhead, right? Or abusing your character or your family or whatever. This impact hasn't been seen yet, and now we see it. And you're right, like the impact on Gaff, he's a good kid, there's no doubt about that. And he's spent the last few days reading, or he might not have read it, but people have seen stuff abusing him, threatening him probably. There's all sorts of stuff. I mean, Basil Zempler's saying to Adam Simpson, like all the stuff about West Coast culture, like spare me.
Yeah, that was a bit much.
It's amazing how it comes up after something like this, isn't it? Yeah. But so before we move on from Gaff, I spoke about it just before about his free agency move. So I need a tip.
Bombers. Wait, what was it?
Some sort of unbiased tip, maybe, because I've got a little theory that I'm sort of starting to maybe give legs to myself. But I'm happy to canvass opinions and see if he's staying or going. So, sure, we'll start with you. Is he staying at the West Coast, or can you tell us, is he coming to Hawthorn?
There'd be interest. No, I reckon he stays. I reckon he stays. That's my tip.
I'm going to say goes.
And goes
to a Victorian club, not sure where.
Okay.
Melbourne's the most recent one, I heard. Yeah,
no,
I heard
but they don't need another midfielder.
It'd be interesting to see with Melbourne. Obviously, goes to another Brayshaw, like
yes,
as Mark.
Yeah, as Mark said.
But I listened to a podcast with Angus, the Melbourne Brayshaw, yesterday, and he was still pretty rattled by it all.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, not really blaming Gaff, but just the whole sort of system, because the rest of his family was still in Perth.
Didn't he call out the West Coast CEO, Trevor Nisbet?
Yeah, that was a bizarre.
But that's also, I think Nisbet's been fed bad info.
Yeah,
I don't think Nisbet's just made that up. Someone's gone, they played golf last week, the couple of Brayshaw, and he's gone, great, and he's told everyone.
Perfect.
Purple monkey dishwasher.
Exactly.
But
teachers are going on strike.
Honk if you love cookies.
We always get a Simpsons quote in somewhere.
I'm running with a little theory.
At least it's braces.
We could be here.
Yeah, we could just like this. We could change the whole tack to this. Yeah. That Gaff will go to Sydney.
Oh,
is where I'm now drawing some conclusions. So if this is this change, I think this does change the course of what he will have decided to do. I think that there's no way he comes to Victoria now
because of the attention.
I just think that it's and Western Australia, I mean, is just as big footy wise.
Yeah.
But I think he either decides to repay the faith that West Coast now sort of goes back, not into a shell, but, just goes, well, I've got to stay here. And, because he's their best player and he's going to miss the final series, and a final series where they'll already be without Nick Naitanui. But I think that if he does go anywhere, he might follow that Buddy Franklin lead of, Sydney, you tend to obviously not get as much AFL. notoriety, I guess. He can sort of go up there. I think that if Sydney can move Hanbury on, as it's been noted that St Kilda are big into him, offering him 5-year deals and stuff, I just see it as... And Sydney always seem to be pretty sneaky around these free agency trade times. They always seem to just... So I'm just happy to sort of half put it on the record there. Well, not half put it on the record,
I think you're forgetting how forgiving the footy public is.
Yeah.
Tommy Bugg, no one even talks about Tommy Bugg doing what he... Last year, he was enemy number one. Wayne Carey's in the media. I don't know if you've noticed that. Wayne Carey did a couple of indiscretions to his teammates. We still sort of like the duck, don't we, apparently?
Yeah.
So I think they're pretty forgiving.
Yeah.
That's a very
If
good
someone's
point.
offering $1 million, I think Gaff's coming.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Has anyone offered him $1 million yet?
I don't know.
Okay,
we heard O'Meara might be out for quite some time from that.
That's right. Yeah,
from that earth-shattering bump. Okay, we'll move on from Tribunal.
Let's move on from Gaff, I reckon.
Score review. We won't spend as much time on this as we did
All
Gaff,
negative.
but Josh Jenkins with the honesty post-game saying that he thought he hit the post, and even at the time you could see he said to his teammate, I thought he hit the post.
Operative word thought.
How are we? Yeah, but I mean, how are we still at this stage? Whereas we don't have,
There's no snicker. I don't.
How is it? Well, like even hotspot, like if we're talking posts, what can we?
I don't see the hoo-ha in this personally. Like I agree. As a player, I always knew, or at least sort of thought that it was whatever point. Well, our goalposts were never high enough, really, because it was going
A lot of goals too, man.
But I mean that was what you do as a forward is if it's going anywhere near the post, just start celebrating because amateur goal umpires, they'll go on your reaction. You go, yeah, they go, oh, it must be a goal. I'll give it to you. If you're not there. But if you look at there's talk about. I can't remember who it was. It was Brian Taylor, one of the guys going, oh, the positioning of the goal umpire. He should have. It was Jared Healy, and it's like, mate, it's happening so quickly. The goal space is quite big. From an eye, it doesn't look like it hits. It's not like Tom Hawkins in the grand final from years back. This is quite hard to tell. Umpire gives it a goal, says he's not sure. There was not conclusive evidence. Play on. That's what the whole thing is there for. I got no issue with it.
Yeah.
And the game it wasn't the last kick of the game, so Port can't say it lost
That's
in
right.
the
Ollie
game.
Wines missed that goal.
Get over
That's
it.
what like in Ken Hinkley's post game. If it was a Tom Hawkins like one and it was a blaring mistake, then you sort of go, yeah, maybe it did cost you derail your season. But that Ollie Wines shot, it was a few minutes beforehand, but that puts them 16 points up and unassailable.
Yeah, people forget
That's where
about
I'd be looking at, like our own mistakes to.
Yeah. Again, it comes to the media and the online people. A lot
And
of
by the
Port
way,
Adelaide
you were up
supporters.
by a fair bit in the game anyway. Like, control the game and don't let Adelaide back into it. You can't blame one thing.
That's what happens when you give Kane Corns Twitter. He'll run with it.
I just thought, and it's refreshing and it's really nice, but that Jenkins post-game thing where he goes, well, I thought he hit the post.
that was good.
If you had asked Tom Hawkins after the 2009 grand final, did you think he hit the post, he would have gone, oh, no, I thought it went straight through the middle. Yeah. And that's not a slide on Tom Hawkins. That's just where, he was only young kid at the time.
He's the new Adam Gilchrist.
Yeah, Josh
He
Jenkins.
walks after he nicks it, you know what I mean?
The hero we deserve.
Except they still call it the goal. So
Yeah, that's true.
They win the
He
game.
already got away with it, didn't he?
Now, I alluded to it, Shura, when you were just talking about how you used to try and trick goal umpires.
Yes.
Did you ever take set shots by snapping the ball like
good question.
we've seen?
Well, don't forget, I retired in 2014. And it was not vogue to do it from I remember it was coming in and I tried it a couple of times and I actually did an Ollie Wines in an important game and missed it and I was like, that was dumb. Because it's very easy. I reckon with a drop punt, you're so focused, run straight, kick straight, and you still miss them, but you know exactly what you're doing. Yeah. With a snap, it's very easy to get complacent and Rayner did up in Brisbane. You can tell he's relaxed on it and then he kicks it right. It's actually almost a harder skill in that way. So
I reckon there's more margin for error. I've never played forward line. I've been a backman since I was 9 years old.
So you've had a boring existence.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I get that.
a game-winning existence.
Yeah, okay.
We get it. Yeah. You're back.
You can share it.
Offense brings
the glory
crowds.
that we go through forwards.
Offense brings crowds. Defense brings championships.
That's true.
yeah.
I'll pay that.
Yeah.
But I would be if you're defending and you work so hard to get, and in the AFL it's tenfold what it is local footy, obviously, but you've got to work so hard to get the ball out of your defensive area and get it inside and then retain it inside forward 50. And then you see a bloke casually go back, take a couple of steps, go bang, hit on the full and go, oh, well, I'll have 15 more shots.
You're so right from a defensive point
it
of
would
view.
just
you work that hard to get it there.
If someone misses a drop punt, it's skill execution, and but at least you're doing. And I understand that it's a new skill that's coming in, and players are more confident in doing it. But if you're more confident in doing it, if you're trying to change the game like you are, you'd want to be hitting them 99 times out of 100.
I wouldn't attempt that kick from anything greater than a probably 30-degree angle. If I'm starting to be in the centre, you got to kick that shot.
The Rayner one, he wasn't even on a difficult angle. That was
and you know what? It started with Stevie Johnson used to do it from almost straight in front. It was like, this is a bit odd now. And he kicked them a lot, so fine. But it's the new dribble kick, isn't it?
Yeah. God, do you reckon Jason Dunstall will turn his attention to...
He's going to soon.
Well, he's got to have something to complain about.
So we also saw, while we're just ticking off all the greatest... and solving the world's problems, mind you, all the football world's problems, Tom Lynch, during last week, post our episode, it emerged that he would no longer be the captain of the Suns, and he would be removed from all football activities for the remainder of the year due to they asked him the question, what are you doing? He told them he'll be leaving to a Victorian club. There's always an argument, because in the NRL they sign with another club and finish their season, right? So there's always, and people are always saying, AFL, we're ready for it, we want to see that. We're nowhere near ready for that, are we? Because the club asks him, fully knowing what his answer's going to be, and then they go, I understand their position in a sense, but I just don't think any of that helps anyone. And that whole leadership group standing up to him and, saying...
Spare me.
Yeah.
Mate, the bloke's giving that much to a club. It's in the bloody doldrums.
And it's never been any better.
And mind you, he's also had some pretty crap coaches. That's I can tell you that for free. But this guy could have been. And we don't know yet. We might get him. Your business here. We might get him at Hawthorn. I'd love to have him at Hawthorn, by the way. But we still don't know what he is yet. He's still an untried. And I reckon he would be 2 years ahead of where he is now had he been in a better system.
Yeah,
I reckon it's without a doubt.
Or if he could play against Carlton every week, because he tears us apart every single time.
Yeah, but he's not the only one.
But spare me taking him out of the leadership group. That's just, you know what? He's not going to steal ideas. It's no different than at the end of the year if they end up changing coaching panels, right? And one of their assistant coaches gets fired and ends up at another club. Well, how's it any different? They've got inside knowledge of your club, as does he.
Yeah.
Especially with the assistant coaches now, they get told by the 1st of August whether or not they're going to be retained or not. That's a bizarre rule in itself. But it's just...
There's a lot of ego going on in the AFL world too.
Yeah.
Just... Well, if you're not
We're
going to
not
be
ready
here,
for free. We've really ballsed up this free agency thing, really, by making players feel bad about this decision they're allowed to make.
Where this is what everyone
at the
wanted.
same time that there's equalisation, it sort of doesn't make sense to do the both. But
so it was also before we get dive further into Shura's footy past and present, it was nice to see Buddy Franklin back to his best, I think. I mean, I know Collingwood's defence was undermanned, but I think it's good to see the champions doing their thing. And I mean, Ablett missed a chance on Friday night to really ram home that he's still as relevantly top echelon as ever. But I feel like Buddy Franklin restored a bit of faith. And if you believe the word that he's hardly training and he's just doing it off pure ability, I think that it's very, very good to see.
He's one of the ones that can do it off pure ability.
Yeah,
he's
incredible.
Just a freak.
He's just
He is there are players that you go to watch foot. As a Hawthorn fan, oddly enough, he's now to me more Sydney than he is Hawthorn. Even though I'll always love him for everything he gave Hawthorn, and I still love watching him play. He's someone you go and watch. There's a few left in the AFL at the moment. I think Sean Burgoyne's just absolutely elite and does things that other players can't. Gary Ablett's a great example of that, Dangerfield. But Buddy's something else. The blokes kicking goals from outside 50, there aren't many I could name that I can think about right now who do it consistently, and he'd be the number one. Who else kicks goals outside 50?
That consistent aspect is because...
he's going to kick it.
Yeah.
It was the first goal he kicked on Saturday night. There was a few of us sitting around having a few beers watching that game, and it was about 55 metres out on that flank at the SCG, and they go, "This is bread and butter."
I'll tell you what kills Hawks supporters though, or does me personally. When he was at Hawthorn, the one knock on him was he couldn't mark. He was not a good pack marker. He could take a mark on the lead, and he kicked unbelievable goals. I reckon he would have kicked another 100 a couple of years if he could mark like he does now for some reason. Maybe he's got his thumbs right, but he could never take marks with us.
It's more credit to him that he can still kick that many goals without being a marker.
Freak, absolute freak.
Yeah.
So we had some feedback just to sort of round out this whole footy aspect of the show. Does the best and fairest aspect still have relevance when we're talking about the Brownlow medal? So say, for instance, if Gaff was
30 odd votes clear, but say he was already 35 votes and he'd had a stellar season, and then this happens. Is there still this came from Jacob Banks on Twitter? Is there still relevance to the best and fairest aspect of the Brownlow?
I'll pass that to you.
I actually,
It's a big one.
I reckon I agree with the stupidity of blokes missing out on Brownlows from like slaps across the year. Like Chris Grant should have won a Brownlow. Corey McKernan should have won a Brownlow. Let's be honest, that is absolute fact for stupid things. I think if you're getting rubbed out for more than 4 weeks, then you've done a serious incident, and that's probably not where it's at. So you could make it where it's like for insignificant incidents of a week or two, then that's allowed. I know it's a fine line, but no, I think Gaff's probably crossed the line in smashing someone in the face. But then, how many sports have it where you can't win it if you've punched someone? I don't know if any others have it. You can just win it if you're the best.
Yeah. Because you'd think that if Gaff missed, in the Brownlow count, he misses these 3 weeks. You think if you can win the Brownlow playing 3 less weeks than anyone else, if you're the best player in the comp, then so be it. It's that.
He can still win the coaches award. He can win the AFLPA, can't he?
I'm sure he can still be All Australian.
Yeah, so
he got a backlash for that, but he was pointing like he was
just
actually.
the rules.
It was just
he
the
doesn't
rules.
choose the side.
Yeah.
He'll get backlash if he
does.
saves an African village or something.
A lot of times he does deserve it though.
Oh, wow, there you go.
Well,
are you watching Gil?
Yeah. Straight to
Get him
AFL.
on. That's the next guest for sure.
yeah, he's got plenty of time when he's
Yeah, he hasn't been answering our calls, unfortunately, like many. So we'll move on. A bit more to you now, Shura. You can
I'm in the hot seat here, which is, by the way, isn't so hot, but is exceptionally comfortable.
Yeah.
Did you guys pick this up on a bargain?
I can't. I don't live. I don't live anywhere.
Mine, his mother donated it.
Yeah, it has that feel.
Yeah.
Been around for a
There'll be
long
few stories
time.
in this chair,
You don't
wouldn't
go
there?
out and buy
There'll
it.
be a few stories in this chair.
Okay, so we'll run through before we hand it over to you to tell us some of your best tales from a.
That's actually one of my favourite subjects, if I'm honest.
Talk us through your own playing career, because I'd say a lot of people I don't think would understand the dominance that you ran through the VAFA with. We're talking 5-6 years or so ago.
Yeah, I played 15 years actually in the Amos. It was good. So started my footy at Hawthorn Sits many years ago. Remember we used to play 2 games of footy a week. You didn't even think about it when you were a kid. You train for your school team maybe Tuesday or whatever. Your own team on a Friday. You play Saturday. You play Sunday. And just never thought about it like that was a thing. And now I look back and go, how the hell do you do that as a kid? They've got that much energy. But no, so then played 15 years at Amos footy. I was very lucky. I came to the club at a time when we were C grade when I first came down in 2003. And I played under-19s and then the under-19s the next year folded and I went actually to Old Scotch, played for a rival, but I had mates there. And then I came back the next year to I wanted to be there when Collegians, because Collegians were a dominant team in the 90s, 80s and 90s that had been crap since then. We're in C grade. It was like a group of us wanted to get us from C grade back to A grade, make us a powerhouse again. And and I played in 15 years of footy, I played in 8 grand finals. So we were lucky, had a real good period of success.
Sound like a
lost a few, by the way. Of 8 grand finals, I lost 5.
Okay.
So,
still 3. I won 1.
Mate, you take 1.
Yeah. That's
Won once.
You sound like a grown-up version of Specky McGee almost. Playing the
grown up.
playing in the.
I like to be the junior version of Specky McGee, mate. No, it was a lot of fun. It was very fulfilling, and You think back and you go, could I have gone further? Or, I was never good enough to go on beyond. I played a bit of TAC VSFL when I was younger at the Chargers, but I knew I was never good enough for AFL. Look at me. I'm nothing to me. So I had to be pretty soft because there's nothing to me. I get smashed by the big
I'm
blokes.
just nodding yeah.
I wasn't known as the hardest footballer. I can put my hand up at that. That was something. But I reckon I learnt later in life not to care so much about getting hurt. If that makes sense. And look at me. I'll say this, 15 years of footy, never did a hamstring. I've never had an injury beyond just chronic aches and pains. I was very lucky.
There you go.
That is unfair.
Yeah. That's like never done a knee, never. I think I broke a nose once and dislocated a finger. That's about it. So I'm fortunate.
There you go. And
it happens if you stay in the goal square. If you don't leave the goal square, you won't get injured.
You don't want to make a bigger goal square like they're trying then.
As long as it doesn't reach past the 50, I'm okay.
Yeah. What was your best return in the VAFA goals wise for a season? Because there was some big ones.
Season?
Yeah. There were some big
in
ones.
a season, my best was 73 3, I think.
And that's fairly dominant. I mean,
I won the
goal.
the league goal kick. There was
Yeah.
1 year I did it, and I was up against a guy, Matt Hanley, who still plays for Xavier. He's an unbelievable footy player, and we often had battles. But he's actually a bit stiff because the story goes we were coming into the final series and we were sitting in 5th. Scotch was sitting in 3rd, and we had to win to make the finals, right? And they were already settled. We were playing them on a Friday night leading into the last round of the finals. So they were like, all right, well, we'll just rest 12 of our best players, right? So we're playing them. We're like, well, this is good. Friday night footy, under lights, first game ever in the Ammos, actually at our home ground. And I just had a day out. I had 7 to half time. Finished with 8, but anyway, I won't mention that. We were level in the Cole medal or whatever you want to call it for the league at that point. So I knew I was probably safe to get him by that stage. But yeah, no, that was a good year. That was a lot of fun. That was my second last year of footy.
Wow, 73.
Why did you? Was there any reason why you pulled up 2 years after kicking 70?
Yeah, my body was still fine. I actually could still play now. I was thinking about it, but I'm 35 now. I've got a kid. Last year having my son, it was like I couldn't have played. It's a big burden. Like, you're up, you don't sleep. He didn't sleep much. I was stuffed. But I guess the big thing about my footy was for many, many years, and a lot of people didn't realise this, I was still filming a kids show at Channel 9. So I would get up at 6, go to Channel 9, get the makeup put on in Peter Hitchener's chair. Do the kids show, and then we'd finish filming it maybe 1, sometimes later. I'd sometimes get to the game. In fact, the latest I got to the game was halfway through the second quarter, right? And I'd run on, get changed really quickly, get a quick rub, and go on. And it took its toll. Like, it wasn't as much fun later on as I thought it would be. Like, that year was really fun, by the way. We made the grand final from 4th. It was amazing, just incredible run. We lost it, but that year was really fun. But the next year I started to realise my mind... when it's time, when you're out in the field, you're thinking of other things. And you've got this young bloke on you, elbowing you in the guts, who wants to beat you. And you're like, why don't you care enough to... like that? That's when it's time to stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The fire's not there.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it.
So you from your, I guess it sort of came from your, you work with Channel 9, but then also your background as a noted goal kicker in the VAFA. You were in the EJ Winton Legends game.
Yes.
Now
that was a life experience in itself. Like, 9 came to me and go, would you like to play in that? Yes. Don't even ask, mate. Of course I want to play in it. So headed off to the EJ Winton game, and there's some good stories from that. First of which was I lined up on the first position. I run out, and it's like, in itself, as a footy fan, as a kid, this is just incredible to run out with the people you're running out with. I mean, I'm on the Vic team with Kuda and Christou and big bloody Monkhurst and Pete Hellier and all the other comedians and stuff. But those legends of the game. I ran to the wing, and they're like starting the wing, and I'm standing on. What's his name from the Lions back to back, came from Melbourne. What's his name? Big fella. Oh,
Mel Michael?
No. Yeah, standing on Mel Michael. No, he's Pike.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, standing on Martin Pike, right?
I saw him the other day. Interesting enough.
He was large, put it that way.
Yeah.
Still
and
is.
he looks at me and he says, completely deadpan, he goes, can I swear on this?
Yes.
Okay. How badly can I swear?
Very badly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just go for it.
So-
Just Jake's grandma does watch the show, so...
Okay.
But that's okay. She's used to it now.
He
'cause
just
Ben,
looks at me and he just goes, don't run too far, you little... And then he says, well, I'll see a word. And I was like, yes, sir. So that was a good start. But no, I did make the mistake of trying to sell candy to Darryl Wakeland. I was like, gave that one. Like, here we go. And he's just like, boom, holding the ball.
You saw Hutchie do it once and you thought...
Yeah, I was like, this will be easy. But no, the highlight was I kicked one goal and I hit Strawny on the tit on the lead. And that was it for me. And the other thing I was going to say, off the back of your comment about Kuda, was after the game, we all go back into the rooms and everyone jumps in the shower. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess everyone's doing it. And I realise I'm standing there and there's Kuda, Christou, Liberatore and Paul Dimatina. So it's quite an ethnic shower, by the way. But all fantastic blokes and big boys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think I belong here.
Now, what was bigger out of that? Liberatore or...
I think Kuda had Liberatore covered as a human.
Head to
If that
toe.
makes any sense.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll run with
I think
that.
we're,
All right.
we're picking up what you're putting down there.
Yeah, no.
But that, a pinch yourself moment as well. Like
Yeah.
In the showers, like, okay, fellas.
Did a couple snaps or Insta.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Thankfully,
hitting it home.
pre-Insta days, I believe it was back then.
So, one of my favourite ever television shows, and it was sort of a hidden motive of trying to get you on. I mean, I sort of had a brief understanding of your background of footy, but I also really love The Mole. The Mole was always one of my favourite shows.
Same.
And you obviously hosted that program. Can you just talk us through like that whole, that's a huge show, like a worldwide, program.
When
and then
I'd finished up with the kid shows at 9 and got this opportunity, it said, can you go for an audition for them? And I was like, The Mole, mate, this is a show. So when the first series of The Mole was on when I was in year 12, I've still got my year 12 diary with at the back all the notes that we wrote, me and a mate, on who we thought The Mole was and how he did this and this and we worked out Alan was The Mole in the first season. So huge show for me, and I've watched every season of it, as I have Survivor, and that's my sort of shows. Mm-hmm. So when this show opportunity came up, I was like, I'm in. And I went for an audition, and in fact, funnily enough, side note to that was I actually didn't get the job originally. I only found this out afterwards. But Seven wanted Matt White to do it. Matt White, Sports Night, and all the stuff he's done. But he couldn't do it because of a clash with the tennis. He was working for Seven at tennis then. And thankfully the job came my way, which was great. But mate, it was the best experience of my life. Regardless of how the show went, it didn't go well, unfortunately, in the ratings. We were never axed, but we were moved time slots. It just didn't quite find an audience. But for 3 months, we were filming up and down the east coast of Australia. Back in the day, by the way, we had one of the first drones ever used on a TV show, like getting shots up and down cliffs. We had helicopters. It was a huge, Seven spent a lot of money on this show. And for me, I'm living my dream as hosting this thing. It was actually incredible. So I was on a high before it aired, and obviously then, I say failed, but didn't do what it was meant to do. But I still look back at it as one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It was cool. You know why? Because the whole role as the host of The Mole is you're meant to be like the friendly policeman, but you're playing mind games on these people. There were times when I did these challenges where I knew what was going on. They had no idea. I'm standing behind a box going, what am I holding in my hands? Or I'm playing mind game. They allowed me to do that, and it was so much fun.
Yeah. Did you know?
I wasn't told. I wasn't told, but don't forget, we saw a lot more than you see on TV. Course, so we worked it out a bit earlier that it was Aaron, who, by the way, has who has an association in footy, works at the Geelong Footy Club.
Oh, yeah. Do they trust her?
Yeah, I don't know if they do anymore. So we worked it out. I mean, the sound guys worked it out on day one because everyone's mic'd, and people forget. But this is the stuff people don't realise. So when they chose The Mole, all 12 contestants were sat down and said, do you want to be The Mole? Privately. Mm-hmm. And of course they all wanted to be, because The Mole, the only person who made money out of the show, because the contestants are paid a little daily rates, not much. The Mole gets money. And the winner gets money. Yeah. So if you're not the winner, you'd rather be The Mole, right? But they had to be psychologically tested to see if you had the ability, because it's quite a big lie to hold for a long time with people you're working with who are making money. So they had to have a certain type of personality. Yeah. And not many of them did. But
Except Aaron, who couldn't lie straight in bed.
Yeah. Although I thought Aaron at times was a bit disingenuous. I thought people could work out pretty quickly. I had a few people tell me straight away, it's here, she's a few crocodile tears, Yeah.
Typical.
She had them. She had the croc tears.
Yeah, don't we all? So I'm happy now to open the floor to you, just to give us some of your footy stories. I've got a great
footy story, actually. This is a good footy story. It's not so much about my footy. It's about me, but it's about footy in general. So I was telling you before, associated with Hawthorn many, many years. I was a Hawthorn supporter. I grew up in Hawthorn. Go to Glenferrie Oval, watch the blokes train. So 1998, when I was year 10, I was like, work experience. I want to work at Hawthorn. So I got in touch with Bernie Crimmins, who was then the club doctor, who's Peter's brother or cousin, and just said I want to do work experience. He came back, said no worries, you can do work experience with me, which is great. So I spent that week of work experience going out to Glenferrie Oval and then out to Waverley. So I'm at Waverley one day, and it's the Thursday training. So I'm just kicking footies back to. These are my idols: Jason Dunstall, Paul Salmon, Nick Holland. It's amazing. Training finishes at Waverley. We're in the rooms, and I realise I've got no lift home. So I'm sort of standing. I'm year 10. I'm 15. Anyone give me a lift home? Shane Crawford. Mate, I'll give you a lift home. Just wait till I get my massage done, and I'll give you a lift. Okay, great. Shane Crawford. Like this is at the height of his powers, by the way. He's just about to win a Brownlow medal a few years later. So I wait around, cut to me getting a lift home from Shane Crawford in his brand new BM, and I'm just sitting in the car like this, like he's on the footy show at that time, so asking questions about footy shows and stuff. He goes, "You come to the game on Saturday?" I go, "Oh, I don't know. My dad normally takes me. He can't go on Saturday." And Shane goes, "I'll take you." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, just be out the front of your house at 11 o'clock Saturday morning. I'll pick you up." And I'm like, "Okay." So there's me on Saturday morning with my sports bag. Shane Crawford pulls up. I get in the car with Shane. He goes, "Hope you don't mind. I've got to go and pick up my girlfriend." And I'm like, "Mate, do what you want. You're Shane Crawford. I don't care." So we drive, pick up his girlfriend, who's now his wife, Olivia. We drive out to Waverley Park and get out of the car. Kids are running up to him, Shane. And they're like, "Are you a player?" I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, pimply face, 15-year-old. Go out, into the rooms, experience the game. They win against North Melbourne by 3 points. They'd sing in the song. I'm just behind. It was an incredible experience. Wow. And then I started because Bernie Crimmins' receptionist at his doctor's clinic would cook the meal. This is back when they had cooked meals on a Thursday night. Mm-hmm. It was a community feel, and she would come each Thursday night and would cook up risottos and pastas and stuff. So I'd come down and help her. So every Thursday night I was at training, in the rooms cooking the wedges or whatever else, chatting. "G'day Samo, g'day Chief, whatever." So that was the relationship that started. And then in my last year of school, a mate of mine got drafted to Hawthorn, Nick Reese. So then I'd start to see Shane out and about, through Hawthorn. He'd always say g'day. We had this relationship that just was on and off through the years. And then cut to, bizarrely, 2007, so however many years later that is, I start working at Channel 9 doing the kids show. And they're like, "Hey, we want you to do a story on postcards. You're going to be doing this story with Shane Crawford." I'm like, well, this has come full circle. Yeah. And I rock up to this shoot, and firstly, Shane's playing on the play equipment at the playground, which just sums up Shane Crawford, by the way. He's playing on a swing. And I walk up and go, "Shane, Shura." And he's like, I'm like, "Yes." And it's just like, now we're working together. And it's just, that's the measure of the bloke.
Yeah.
I'm a 15-year-old kid who just says, "Can I get a lift home?" And he drives me to the game. That's pretty awesome.
How good is that?
And there are stories about Shane doing that, picking up fans whose cars are broken down, and you know what I mean. That's
so he did it a lot.
Yeah, he's just a good guy.
Just a good bloke.
No candy on him, nothing.
I don't think so. All these guys survived.
Not Ivan Milat. So just to finish up now, thanks very much for
that was a long story.
all the time you've given us. That was a good one. That was a good one. So you currently got a podcast out with Mark Orville, who's more affectionately known as Angry Dad. Do you want to run our viewers through? Because I'm sure after they watch this, they'll then be searching for another podcast to get stuck into.
That won't be, they'll be satisfied to a degree, but they need more.
Yes, for sure.
But it's not sports related, so we're not in competition, so that's fine. Although Mark did play for Collingwood.
Yes,
a lot of people don't know that. He played, 7 games.
The end of 87.
In the 87. He was actually in the squad. He was at the squad of the 1990 team that won the flag. He was in that squad, but he just he did the old navicular fracture, and that's the one that
that'll do it.
That'll do it. Matthew.
That
Egan
was
and all those guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's a ripper. Angry Dad. I'm sure you guys know Angry Dad. Fuck off Mitchell. Fuck off Dylan. That sort of stuff. And I got to know him quite well through a mate, and a lot of people. He's quite opinionated. He's quite out there, but he's a really good bloke. And we have kind of opposite opinions on things. And obviously, I'm a new father. He's an old father, and different generations and whatnot. And we decided to do a little podcast called AD and the MC. So AD, Angry Dad. So yeah, we're a few episodes in, and we're giving that a crack. Like you guys, mate, it's great. Everyone's doing podcasts, and it's good because there's something out there for everyone. You know what I mean? Like there's sports, or there's crime, or there's music, whatever. I think it's really good.
And you guys just talk about whatever.
We've just started. You know what? We've sort of taken a little turn where we're actually focusing a little more on the dad thing. So not so it's just about dads, but we are both dads of different generations, of different, of aged kids. Yeah. And he's been through a fair bit. We actually got some episodes coming up. His story is really interesting and quite full on as well. So we're going to get into some nitty gritty of some mental health stuff as well. But there's a lot of laughs. We had Mitchell on last week explaining how Angry Dad started and how it all works and the relationship between them. And I don't know if anyone follows him on Instagram or whatever, but they've just gone to LA. That's why we can't do our podcast this week. And they've pranked him massively over in LA. So I'll be interested to see how this goes.
He's just aware that it's
and so many people think it's fake. It's not.
Yeah.
Because as he says, like, he knows pranks are coming. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, he knows.
Doesn't know
But
why.
there's always a moment where you relax.
Yeah.
Right now, if you prank me, I'd be like, and I know I'm not expecting it, but he's like, at all, you can't be on at all times.
Yeah.
You can, and by the way, we don't see the 50 they don't work.
that don't,
and there's plenty of them.
Yeah. That's amazing.
That is great, isn't it? Okay, well, I reckon that's a fantastic spot to leave it. Yeah, great stories. Thank you very much for
Hey, thanks for having me, boys.
for
A lot of
coming
fun.
on. Yeah, you've been really good with your time tonight. We really appreciate it. So, people out there in the Magoo's community, make sure you go and hit up the podcast there with Shura, and if you see him getting around on any other shows,
Say good day.
absolutely go and do it. Shura, thank you very much. Good luck with being a new father and all the rest of it.
Oh,
And,
yes, thank you very much.
Hope to hear from you very soon. So, good luck with it all.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers. Welcome back, Magoo's viewers. A fascinating chat there with our latest guest, Shura Taft,
Yeah,
joining
really
us
good chat.
on the couch in here to talk his life and footy as well as all the current day things that are going on. We're going to get stuck into our regular segments here now.
Yep.
But before we do, so Shura's obviously left us for this part of the podcast, but we can now welcome back the mic'd up Jack, who is back on the news show.
Hello,
Producer
boys.
Jack.
Hey, mate.
Am I classified as a guest or as a producer now?
I think once you leave for a long enough time, you become a guest.
Yeah, but you don't really have the social media profile that was sort of after.
No. I downloaded Twitter the other day.
Download Twitter.
I follow two people, LeBron James and Donald Trump.
And he called me and said that he actually, after a day, you got rid of Trump. You said you were over it already.
Yeah, he overloaded my
So it's just
feed.
now your mate LeBron.
Overload my feed today.
Now it's just the king.
Because you're just on his feed.
Anyway, Jack, it's
And the Magoos. I follow the Magoos now.
That's better. Here we
So
go.
what? It's
Good
LeBron
follow.
James and the
That's
Magoos.
yeah.
maybe the hosts. We'll see how we go.
Yeah.
Jack, just a quick word from you. I know you'd obviously have a lot of pent up opinions in there. Since you haven't had your
Busting.
platform for a while. Cats, what's your thoughts on where they're at the moment, please?
My thoughts were pretty good from the weekend until I watched Chris Scott's post-match press conference. Did you guys see that at all?
Yes.
Oh,
That's the whole premise.
that's the whole premise.
right there.
Just watch things. Just do some research, Ben.
I do.
No, it was very jaded and jarred, and he just came out very like a smart ass, almost
think?
defensive. Yeah,
I didn't get that feel, but I guess
it was out of character for him. So
He's usually complaining, so.
it's a massive plus for us going forward that we only lost by 3 points and probably should have won the game if Gary Ablett had been 1 year younger.
I disagree, but anyway.
Why do you
Well, I said
disagree?
at the start of the year you won't make finals, and I'd stand by that.
they will make the finals. They
I don't know.
absolutely will make.
We're
the
playing
will.
Freo and Gold Coast in the last game down at the Cattery, and the top 8 all play the top 8. It's just
All right.
Fait accompli. They'll make the finals.
Okay. This is my bold prediction.
And
Ooh,
my bold prediction
so
of
bold.
Essendon not making the
It wasn't
finals is
bold. We've been
continuous.
through this. It was
was.
prediction, but
They
it
were going to
wasn't
win the
bold.
flag. Everyone was saying they're so
David
good.
King
And
was the only one who talked the Bombers up.
well, they're not
Kingy
playing
said
finals.
flags, mate.
You said they
He
were
said
gonna make the finals.
flags.
I thought we would make finals. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
You know.
how was that not a bold prediction that they wouldn't make it?
Because you've already stated a million times on this show that no one gives two shits about my opinion.
That's not what I say.
Do you put it all down to Hurley falling over?
No. That was a cracking game. I was there on the weekend. Cracking game. Anyway, are
I do.
we...
Yeah,
is
we-
it the three of
we
us on
might
the
as well.
podcast now?
Yeah.
Do we have a camera on chat?
Oh, sorry,
the
I'll
Kane-
shut up.
We're going to jump into your time-honoured segment, the Kane Corns of the Week.
Yeah.
One thing I have noticed is that there's a worm in your rescue.
It's true. There is a worm in there right now.
Is it alive?
It
Not
was at some stage. I'll have to call the OSPCA.
Yeah, well, there's actually no corn in there either. It's probably starved to death, I guess.
Okay. Well, good luck with your segment, Ben.
Thanks, mate. You
Jump
just
in-
on the reins.
Jump into the Kane
This is
Corns of the Week.
a great throw,
This week
by
was-
the way.
Absolute easy one during the whole gaff down in the what do you call it? The tribunal.
Okay. Yeah, wasn't sure what
No,
you were trying to say.
this
there.
one is going to John Ralph for his so-called journalism.
He's a tall man. He could play in the ruck for the team of the year, for the
he'll
Kane
be
Corns.
starting on because
Kane
I'm
Corns.
pretty sure I actually gave it to him in round 3 or 4. But there's that many rounds where he can be emergency as well as playing because this was just too obvious to me. So before Gaff went to the tribunal, he was escorted out of Melbourne Airport. Everyone knew that.
Yep.
And then Ralph tweeted, "Eagles deny they play by different rules when it comes to anyone else. Then Andrew Gaff gets police escort through the airport. Reckon that needs explaining. Only explanation is if there is a viable threat against him, surely." And then not long after that, he tweeted again, "The word is Melbourne Airport were keen for Gaff to avoid media scrum." I think he spelled scum wrong. Potential disruption to other passengers. Not sure it's great PR though. Media would have got their shots and moved on. Which, it was clearly a little bit upset about not getting his shot, wasn't he? I thought anyway. This journalist, John Welf, I know you're just having a giggle. This is
John
been
Welf.
thrown to me. I thought we were doing your segment
Wang.
first. He's continued to show that he isn't exactly a journalist, but a sensationalist and a bit of a sook, I reckon.
Oh, boy.
Gaff would have copped the same treatment if they just put him through as Steve Smith copped back in when he was escorted through the airport, which doesn't look good for anyone. And then someone called him out on Twitter saying that Gaff needs no microphone shoved in his face because it's just a photo. And then he replied saying, "I couldn't care less. You are in the AFL industry that has a $2 billion TV rights deal. If it's the biggest story of the week, viewers want live pictures." And then our boy, Andrew Bogut, who's more than welcome to come on the show.
The bogey man. We did ask him once.
Love to have him on because he likes
Went
to
down like a lead balloon, Jack, just in case you're wondering.
Just fun fact, very tall.
He is tall.
Oh, I thought, no, it's not really a fun fact. It's a fact. But
So he quoted that tweet about he couldn't care less, that viewers just want to get their shots, etc., etc. And then Andrew Bogut said, "Out of 5, how important is a walking airport shot to your viewing habits when any athlete is in the news?" And shock horror, everyone was saying a big fat 0. And people got right around it. And I just thought the whole thing, like, he's meant to report the news. He was clearly acting like a child. He knew that the Gaff story was that big, and then there was a couple of them in the media that sooked up about not getting their shots. But at the end of the day, I tend to agree with, not tend to, I 100% agree with Bogut saying, no one cares about that live shot at the airport. No one cares. At all. Flog.
okay, well, there you go. So,
Kane Corns of the Week, round 21.
it's your segment.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree or disagree or weigh in.
Well,
because, it's
If you don't
it's your
agree, you're
thing.
part of the problem.
Okay, fair call. So there you go. John Ralph features yet again in that segment, which is fast becoming a real soapbox for you, isn't it? Like,
Have you created the team yet?
Nah.
No?
That was your job.
Because
I called you during the week.
Yeah, I haven't
Because you
been
know
here
what
for
he'd have
10
to do?
weeks.
He'd have to go through every show and watch every
Nah, I've got
episode.
notes.
I've gone through no
I've got show
shows.
notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, show
Oh,
notes.
is that what that
Oh, that'd be
filing
great.
cabinet was out there? I
Uh-huh,
saw.
with the big lock on it. There's
What?
people stealing food in this house, and then they start stealing notes.
Let's not get into that.
The bigger the lock, the more protection it gives.
I
Do
reckon
you
that's
feel?
the vibe it gives. Not sure.
I
if
think it's
true.
more how many times it's plated the strength of the lock.
I've watched the Italian Job before. I think you're correct actually,
Yeah.
on that one.
That's where I got it from, actually, I think.
Mark Wahlberg, great
Makes
film.
sense.
Interesting.
Anyway.
Anyway, I'm
Big
going
white
to
Jake.
get us back on track here. I was just trying to take everything you said in then.
Yeah, but the way you're looking at me was just really putting me off.
Yep. So I'm going to jump straight into the Magoo's moment here, people.
Do I get it?
No, you certainly don't.
What?
So this goes
Try
to a man who is rolling up to play his 250th game this week. Dale Morris from the Western Bulldogs. At 35 years of age, he becomes the oldest player in VFL AFL history to reach the 250 game milestone. He was taken at pick number 19 in the 2005 rookie draft. So he's come through the hard way. He's I think he is as good of an old-fashioned back pocket as we still have in the modern game. I mean, he's tough, he's hard, he's does his job. I can't think of too many games where, pardon me, he's been beaten. And Julian De Stoop tweeted during the week.
Good name.
Not sure why Jack just broke out into laughter
I think
there,
that's
but
the first time he's heard that name.
interesting for a man who works
Is
in
that
the industry like yourself.
I mean, he's been telling the news on Fox Footy for years. Even I knew that.
Sorry.
So, in between, since he played his 150th game,
Yeah.
Dale Morris, so in between game 150 and 250, he's had 2 broken legs, a partially torn ACL, which he came back from this year, which he did in February, and he's already back playing from, broken arm, and he played 4 finals and won a flag with back fractures. So in his last 100 games, that's what he's gone through. He continues to bounce back, 35 years of age. And did you know he's only ever had 1 Brownlow vote?
I thought after you asked, did you know, you get to pause and I sort of have a guess, but 1 Brownlow vote. Interesting. Only one Brownlow vote in 250 games, Jack.
Yeah.
And he's
enough,
been invited to the Brownlow 4 times. He's only ever polled once. And he only had 11 touches in the game he polled.
Wow. A lot of talent in the Doggies team during that era.
That was it's surprising, isn't it, that they didn't. I mean, I know they made a couple of prelims, but they had Cooney and Griffin and Murphy and all those guys at the peak of their powers, in a sense. Even Barry Hall was there, Ackermanis.
Yeah.
That's a slab.
I think it might be who I'm hoping. No, it's not.
Oh. Scandalous.
Yeah.
No. I mean, it just depends.
Talking about soap.
Just depends how we edit this show, I think.
No, well deserved. That 100 games there is.
Yeah, he's obviously gone through a little bit. Now the Magoo's moment of the week this week goes to Dale Morris. Ben, we've reached the end of yet another episode of the Magoo's, round 21 in the book. Round 21 episode, of course, round 21 still coming this weekend. A big thank you to Shura Taft for joining us. Fantastic guest on the Magoo's. Was some fantastic stories in there. This weekend, it's been a big news week in footy. So hopefully this week, it's more about the footy, less about indiscretions and that sort of thing. But Benny,
That's
just
what I'd
before
like
we
to
go, I'm gonna run through the tips. I'm gonna give your tips. You'll tell me your tips, and then we get a right or a wrong for me. We'll start at Etihad. That was confusing. Start at Etihad Stadium on Friday night. Essendon St Kilda.
Essendon.
Correct. Hawthorn Geelong at the G.
Hawthorn.
Wrong. Gold Coast Richmond.
Richmond.
Yes, I agree. Port Adelaide West Coast at Adelaide Oval.
West Coast.
Ooh.
I said Port won't make finals last week.
Okay, you got to stick by that. I'll go with the Power. Collingwood Brisbane at Etihad.
Collingwood.
Yep. Giants Adelaide in Canberra.
Giants.
Yep, Giants are third now, just for the record.
Oh, yeah, can't see them losing a game from here on in.
Oh, they're going to win the flag. There you go. Ben said it first. North Melbourne Western Bulldogs at Etihad.
North Melbourne. Unfortunately, I hope
Yeah,
they don't.
that's correct. Melbourne and Sydney at the MCG.
Oh, Melbourne will lose this game.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. And then the match of the round, best for last, Fremantle Carlton at Optus Stadium.
Hopefully it gets called off due to rain.
Okay, well, I think Carlton might get their third win of the year.
Due
Thanks
to
for
rain in Perth.
Thanks for it's a winter sport too, and I think rain. Thanks very much for joining us, Magoo's viewers. I think that's a perfect note to get out on. Make sure you like, subscribe, share everything on the socials, and if you want to, feel free to give us some money and sponsor us. We'll put, as the sign says, your business here. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.